Hi, everybody. It's Dawn coming to you this week for our podcast. And this week's podcast is about grief and guilt and shame and how they're all intertangled. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this and give you some tips to move through some of the stages of grief, guilt, and shame. Okay. So grief comes in many different shapes and sizes, and grief can strike at the most strange times in the strangest ways, right? We may grieve a part of our person that we were, like, say, if we were, like, for me, I was a corporate person and I had positions of authority and management and that kind of thing. And I would put the suit on every day, and then I'd have to go and make sure everybody was on track and then fulfilling these different things. Well, when that part of my life ended, there was a certain amount of grief over that person that I was, right? You take on many identities and roles in this lifetime. And when we move out of them, even though it can be a beautiful experience in time, there may be a grief associated with that. There could also be guilt or shame. I actually came out of corporate because I got cancer, right? So there could be shame associated with that. How did I get the cancer? Did I not take care of myself? Was I not honoring things, or did I live in a toxic environment? So there could be guilt, shame. There could be sadness around it. So I challenge you to think about grief and guilt and shame kind of as one ball that you got to unwind, but also to know that grief doesn't just happen from death, right? It can happen from death of an illusion. How about that? An illusion that you're in control, right? But the one thing that I really did want to say about grief and guilt and shame, unfortunately, is that I have found that some of these things that are so yicky to deal with, right, are actually the biggest catalyst for change in our life. So though the energy is heavy and it feels kind of yicky, it is a beautiful opportunity to change that energy, that perception of yourself and others, right? And so very liberating, and Spirit's telling me to equate it to maybe if you had a domineering spouse or parent, and when they die, when they pass from this earth, you're relieved of that role, right? Of being subservient to them, of meeting their needs, XYZ. And it should feel like liberating and this and that, but oftentimes it can get muddled in the confusion of the grief of that person, that situation, and even your sense of identity. So how do we change this? What do we do to move through it? Because nobody wants to stay there. And we know that all of these emotions, it's not a straight line through them. It's an up and a down. And, for each of us, it's going to be different depending on who we are, how we were raised, what extra things we took on as burdens, or things that we may have taken on and carried. Maybe it's shame over your family, maybe you come from a family that has a lot of alcoholism, or domestic violence or sexual abuse. It's not that unheard of in this day and age, right? You're not alone. A lot of us have experienced those different things to different degrees. Everybody has a different experience, but this is prevalent through our society, all these things. So it's really important to just be clear on what are the emotions you're feeling and what is it that you want to change. And you can do this on your own, or you could obviously work with someone to do that. For me, I've always really, really excelled at using the Akashic records for this. And the reason that I like to use the Akashic records is that because of I am a very spiritual person, and I've been blessed with knowing my gifts. And I think everybody has gifts. Some of us just happen to know them and others don't, right? And so because I know of my gifts, I knew that there were tools out there to use. Now, I like the Akashic better than some of the other ones because it's solid information. The angel cards are a beautiful way to get message. Intuitive hits are beautiful, but they can be clouded by our own thoughts and desires. The Akashic isn't that way. We're accessing the records through your spirit team, and at that point in information to give you the best information to support you in that moment. And so for me, the Akashic records have been beautiful on helping me to move and release grief and guilt and shame in different areas of my life. I'm old enough that I have made so many mistakes now. And, I kind of forgot about my parents' mistakes or my ancestors' mistakes, but they played into who I was and then to who I am today, right? But I don't want to carry around the heavy parts of it anymore. I no longer need to do that. I don't have to feel pain to know I'm alive, right? I can feel pain. I can feel pain. No, cancel, release. I can feel alive with joy and happiness. And oh my gosh, that feels so much better. I think before I taught myself not to feel. And so whether it was good or bad, you kind of desensitize sometimes to survive our relationships and our families and all that. And so with that, I taught myself not to feel things. But now I'm suggesting that, we all take a step and feel that. What is it that is impacting you right now? Is this yours? Is it something you brought along? Is it a limiting thought or belief or limiting thought or belief, right? So that's really important to look at the actual emotion and then to dig a little deeper and see where does that stem from. And, sometimes, like say with shame can come from a childhood experience that we have no memory of per se, other than, let's say someone didn't have a lot of money and they knew that when they went to a birthday party, their gift wasn't going to be the best one. So they would always feel a little shameful about that. Well, there was nothing to feel shameful about. You came, you supported your friend, you brought a beautiful gift. It doesn't matter if it costs $5,000 or $5. Put the value on the action and not on the old way of looking at things, right? And so by looking at the shame piece, maybe from childhood, we can see how that's affecting us today and how much we could open ourselves up, right? If we release that. So a little convoluted in my conversation with you today, because this is just where my team has taken me. But grief, guilt, and shame are heavy, heavy emotions. However, they are an opportunity to ascend, to release, and to go deeper into your true desires and your true character essence. And so for that, that'll be our podcast for this week. Do you have some tips for working through grief and guilt and shame? I know I have some things that work for me that I've tried. Journaling is a beautiful one, especially if the people are past or if the conversations are not actually very easy to have right now. Also connecting my higher self to the person's higher self, calling forward both of the higher selves to release any of that old energy that's tying these souls together. So I hope this helps in some way, shape, or form. If you have suggestions, tips that you'd like to give to me, I would love to hear them. And yeah, that's it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.